Now let's go ahead and review Detail 2D for ACI. In this case, we're starting with the detail application, and from there we can choose the 2D option. When choosing the 2D options, you are given different templates that you can choose from, whether you're working with a simple section or a complex section such as D regions, MEPs, or RFIs. Detail 2D is able to tackle those. Now, if we don't have a template that suits your needs, you can always choose a general geometry and start from scratch. In our case, we will go ahead and show you a deep beam with opening so that you can see what all is needed for you to be able to model, analyze, and review your results. So to get started, all you have to do is start with the geometry. So in our case, M1 is our geometry, and O1 is the opening that we're creating. After you set your geometry, you then want to add your boundary conditions. For your boundary conditions, you have options for supports, such as line supports, point distributed, or bearing plates. You also have options for transfer devices, whether you're adding anchors, bearing plates, or other options. Once you have added your geometry and your boundary conditions, you can then move on to the reinforcement. For the reinforcement, on the right-hand side, you have different options that you can choose from. And if we go to a 3D real view, we will be able to see more details of our reinforcement. If I start with GB1, I can see the different group of bars that I'm setting, as well as the different layers and bars that I'm setting for each and every single layer. By adding different group of bars, I can select different spacings and different locations for the reinforcement to be located at. The same thing goes with the cages. I can add a cage around my entire section or a cage around my opening. By having this flexibility of reinforcement, you ensure that you have the correct detailing of your reinforcement so that your model analysis is accurate. So I will go ahead and go back to 2D view so that we can review the load cases and the load combinations for the model. If we start with the load cases, as you can see, you can define many different load cases. And in our example, we're starting with dead load for a line loading, light load for a concentrated loading, and wind loading for lateral load application. Once you have added your different load cases, you can then move on to your different load combinations that will allow you to check for strength in the concrete, reinforcement, and an added analysis within Detail 2D is the option for serviceability checks. For serviceability checks, you can look at crack width and deflection for short-term and long-term. So once you have all your load combinations set and ready, you can then calculate your model so that you can be able to look at the results. Once you have run your analysis, you will notice that in the top left corner, you have the summary of your results. But if you want to observe the detailed results, you can then move on to the check tab. On the check tab, the first thing that we see is a summary check. So in here, we can see things such as a stress flow for your compression and your tension regions. If we want to see the detailed strength checks for the concrete and the reinforcement, we can then go to the upper tab, and under the code check results, we can find the strength checks. And for concrete, the type of results that we can find are your utilization checks for the concrete strength, as well as the compressive forces that are being developed on the entire section. For the reinforcement, similar results can be expected by looking at the utilization and the different stresses in the reinforcement. Now, if we want to take a look at the anchorage checks, the type of results that we can expect here are the bond stresses and the total force that are being developed along the bar. If we look at our serviceability checks, we can see that we have the option of looking at the crack width for the entire sections, and we can always see the most extreme locations as well. For the deflections, we can see the short-term and long-term deflections, as well as taking a look at the deformed shape so that we can ensure that the model is deforming as it should, which can also help ensure that the model is correct. Now, once you have verified your analysis and your results, you can then move on to the Report tab. Here on the Report tab, on the right-hand side, you have different options to choose from so that you can be able to edit the type of report that is being generated. With this generated results, we can see the type of formatting that we provide. We provide you with all the input, the loadings, your summary of your results, and from there we can move on to the detailed results for every single aspects of the checks, whether we're looking at the strength or the reinforcement.